I've known Leonard Nimoy a long time. He's a dear friend. His artistic talent goes far beyond his iconic role as Star Trek's Mr. Spock. His creative gifts take him not only in front of the camera, but behind it as well. He has earned a reputation for being an exceptional photographer and director of film and television. Also an author, Leonard has published several books, including original poetry, autobiographies, and photo essays. Now, my good friend Leonard Nimoy sits down with me to discuss family, photography, and why learning to play the accordion was never an option. Leonard Nimoy is about to expose his raw nerve. What are you doing here?
I thought I'd drop in and say hello.
Oh, that's good.
Want to help you out a little bit? You need
I
some
do.
help?
I need all the help I can
heard
get.
you need help. How
So you
are
brought
ya?
a t-shirt. What are you, a change of t-shirt? Just
Yeah,
in case
in case-
the one that you're...
In case I get sweaty.
Let me see the t-shirt. Now, Leonard, that's a wonderful
Don't
shot.
get excited.
I'm not. There's a picture here I want to discuss.
This is a picture of my grandfather.
Looks pretty
Sam
modern.
Spinner.
Sam Spinner, your mother's
Spinner.
side.
On my mother's side, that's right. He came from Russia, turn of the century. He was a leather cutter. And he found work cutting leather luggage in Boston. And he was the one who, like so many immigrant families that have one of these, he was the one who made the money to send back for the rest of the family to come over to the United States. Oh, this is a great guy. My parents were not the kind that were terribly encouraging. They didn't want me to go off and be an actor or try to be...
What did they want you to do?
Well, their concept of what they wanted their children to take advantage of was a very American kind of, you go to high school, you get good grades, get into a good college, get good grades, become either a doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Your brother, right?
Scientist. My brother's an engineer, yeah. A dentist, a pharmacist, something where you can hang out a shingle and say...
And knowledge you can bring with you in case...
And make a living.
In case you had to run.
And yes, that's right. And exactly. And make a living. So you have a secure life. When I told my dad, I want to be an actor, he said, well, you're going to be hanging around with gypsies and vagabonds. And then he said to me, learn to play the accordion. And he was serious. You can always make a living with an accordion.
Tell me the story of when your grandfather said, go do it.
When I was 17, I had been acting on stages since I was about 8 years old. Local neighborhood kids theater, kids shows and stuff like that. You too, I'm sure. And when I was about 17, I acted in an adult drama for the first time, a play called Awake and Sing by Clifford Odets.
Sure.
I'm sure you're aware of Clifford Odets, sort of great playwright of the 30s.
Right.
And it was a social drama about a family so much like my own. And I was playing a kid, a 17-year-old kid, who was having the same issues in his life that I was having.
Wow.
And 3 generations living in an apartment.
Oh,
in the play.
Oh my God. That's
so I thought, wow, this is really interesting. This is about people like me. And the audience can really relate to this stuff. I mean, it's really about us, you know. It's about our lives and the pressures and the loves and the hates and the angers and the frustrations and the fears that we're all experiencing.
Right.
And this kid that I'm playing in the show has got the same concerns that I've got. Like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And who am I supposed to be? And who am I going to fall in love with? Or will I ever find her? You know, stuff like that. The show closes, the play, Awake and Sing closes.
And you didn't get paid for that. That was an amateur.
No,
Right?
no. The theater was 4 or 5 blocks from my home in Boston. I go to the theater to pick up my wardrobe, the clothes that I was wearing in the play.
Which were your own clothes.
My own clothes. And I pick them up, and I'm walking home through the streets of Boston, carrying these clothes, going home.
Is it dark? Or,
No, daylight, daytime. And I realize that I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm saying to myself, I'm more comfortable there than I am there. I want to do what's there in that theater. I don't want to do what's happening in that house. There's nothing for me there. I got to get out of there. I have to go do that. And that's when I realized I got to get away.
Wow. Okay, so but you got to put your clothes somewhere, so you go back to the apartment.
I went to the apartment.
All right. Now your grandfather's
and I
there.
started making plans.
And you're right. But when does your grandfather say, go do what you want?
When he heard my parents say, "Oh no, what? No, you got to go to college."
Give me a little more detail.
I was stunned.
Do you clasp him? Do you hug him?
No, I was stunned. I just stood there and looked at him and nodded my head.
Did you cry?
Yeah. Yeah, I choked up, yeah.
You choked up because he understood what you wanted.
Yeah.
What an enormous moment that is.
Yeah. That's why I saved this. This is my mentor. He's my guy.
That is one of the most wonderful character. You've never told me that before.
No, we never had a chance to talk about that.
Hold on to this as you talk about him.
And this picture was taken with this camera. This picture was done around 1943 or 44.
I sort of recognize the texture of it.
This picture was taken with this camera, which was bought the day I was born. So how old is this camera?
31. 77 years
77, that's right.
We had a camera like that.
And this camera started my interest in photography. I made an enlarger out of this camera. Took the back off and built a light housing.
When did you do that?
When I was about 13. Built a light housing and put the negative in there and projected the image onto a board and made this print. I shot this photograph with this camera and made this print with this camera.
Leonard, we've known each other
How many years?
35, 40 years, right?
Long time.
40 something years. I've never known this.
Well, we never had a chance to talk like this about these things. We talk about a lot of other stuff.
The photography thing, I didn't know that it goes that far back, and that a 13-year-old kid taking the back off.
Yeah, in 1970, after we did the 3 seasons of Star Trek, and I did 2 seasons on Mission Impossible, I really considered changing careers, and I went to UCLA to study seriously. I studied, I worked hard, I developed more craft, more technique, more understanding of what I wanted to shoot and why I wanted to shoot. But I decided that I wanted to do what's known as fine art photography. I didn't want to do commercial photography. So I decided that I would stick to the acting and directing career and do my photography as a personal satisfaction side thing. And now my work is all about photography.
Take me through the genesis of the idea. Where you say you might wake up in the morning and have this idea.
Yes.
But you had, because you and I've talked about this before this.
Yeah.
You had this wonderful idea, very complex idea. Not only was it complex, it required the assistance of ordinary people. Mm-hmm. And so you had to feel that they'd be interested in doing that.
Yes.
Where did the idea, what was the genesis of the idea?
Everybody, it seems, or many people, have this sense of who am I really supposed to be? Where's the rest of me? Who am I looking for? A partner, a mate, some part of me that I feel is missing to make myself feel complete. So with that idea in mind, we rounded up 95 people in the city of Northampton, Massachusetts, where I have a gallery that shows my work, the Michelson Gallery. I gave them invitations and appointments. In a 2-day period, we photographed 95 people. The invitation was, come as who you think you really are.
Come as you really
As
think
who you
you are.
think you really are.
As who you think you really are.
We got some wonderful, wonderful results.
And you took photographs.
We photographed
Like-
95 people, and I had we videotaped conversations with them about their fantasies, their dreams, their secret selves, their hidden selves, their repressed selves. It was wonderful. Some very touching, some very funny. Wonderful experience.
Give me, describe something that comes to mind.
One guy who's an accountant or whatever he does in his daily life comes with a guitar. He says, my fantasy has always been to be playing rock music in front of thousands of screaming teenage girls. He strips down to his underwear and he starts pounding away on his guitar, and I'm shooting pictures of him.
How old is he?
He's in probably late 30s or mid-30s. A young lady comes in wearing a bodysuit of green felt from head to toe, hooded and the whole body in green felt with yellow spikes going down the back of her head and down her back, looking like a kid in a dinosaur suit.
A lizard, yeah.
What's your story? She said, I grew up the daughter of a traveling evangelistic preacher, a charismatic preacher on television. We went from city to city, town to town. And being the preacher's daughter, I was never allowed to be a child. I always had to be very prim and proper and act like an adult. I want my childhood, she said. So I'm acting out my childhood. Stuff like that. Wonderful stuff. Very touching human stuff.
So here you tell your beloved parents this terrible, shameful fact. And you had the shame too, because that's the way you were brought up.
Yeah. My dad actually said, this is awkward. This is awkward.
Like that?
Yeah. And my mom said, oh. And I thought, I've brought this pain.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
We were talking about relationships and marriage and all that kind of thing. and it comes to mind that there you were, you left your home and you got married so right away and had 2 children fairly quickly, as did I, and then things didn't quite work out in that marriage.
Yeah.
And so you had a painful divorce.
Well, things were. You're right. I guess that's one way of putting it. I was married for 33 years, so it took a long time to figure out.
Well,
whether it was working out or not.
Right.
But you're right. Eventually,
we all take our own paths into what's working, what's not working out.
Yeah.
So finally, you decide that it's not working out, but this doesn't fit. What your marriage doesn't fit the picture of the dedication your mother and father had. You strove to meet that image with all your might, but it didn't work out. Now, that must have been terrible. But then you meet this one of the more wonderful women, ladies that live on this earth, your wife Susan. Give me some moments. So let's dwell a few moments on that.
I was concerned about my parents. My parents came from a generation where divorce was a shameful thing.
Of course.
It was awkward. It was something, you didn't want it in your family.
No,
not in
it
our
was
family.
verboten, yeah.
Not in our family.
Yeah.
But then along came Susan. And I realized that I had a chance to really reach for a wholly different kind of life. And it was a life force that I just wanted to have in my life. And I finally decided I had to do it. So on the day, I don't know if I ever told you this story, on the day that I left that marriage, I was driving to the studio to Paramount. We were prepping one of the Star Trek movies. And I was going to wait. I was very trepidatious. My folks were living in California. I was very trepidatious about telling them that I was getting a divorce, that I was leaving my marriage. And I realized that day, somebody had told me, I'd been notified, there was going to be a picture of me on the cover of Newsweek magazine. And I thought to myself, maybe if I can bring that with me, as I tell my parents that I have failed over here in this marriage, it's not working, I'm leaving. But look at this, in this nice pictures on the cover of a magazine. Maybe that would soften the blow and make things a little bit easier. So I started looking for the magazine, various stores, magazine racks and so forth. It was on a morning, I think it was a Tuesday morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't find it, and I kept hearing the same story. Oh, we get that in the afternoon. It comes here about 4 o'clock. And I thought, should I wait? But that's dangerous because I felt that there was some snooping around going on in the press, and my folks might hear about this with a phone call from somebody saying, I just heard on the news, I read in the paper or something, somebody called me and said they heard or they saw something about Leonard's getting a divorce, and I didn't want that to happen to them. So I went out to see my folks empty-handed, and they both took it with great pain. Great pain. It was a big blow to them.
What does that mean? Big pain?
Well, it was.
There a lot of,
my dad actually said, "This is awkward. This is awkward."
Like that?
Yeah, and my mom said, "Oh, and I thought I've brought this pain."
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
A terrible blow.
Yeah. And then I realized that I had to live my life. I couldn't live it for them. I had to live it for me.
What did you say to them?
I said, I've left my home. And my mom said, you're selling the house? And I said, no. I said, I've left my home. I've taken some clothes and I've moved out. I just moved out that morning, threw some clothes in the car and left.
You were in great pain too.
Oh, I was physically shaking.
Yes, of course.
Physically.
So here you tell your beloved parents this terrible, shameful fact. And you had the shame too, because that's the way you were brought up.
Yeah.
And your parents took it like it was the most shameful possible thing.
Yeah, very painful, yeah.
What transpired after that? I mean, what's the next moment?
Well, fortunately, my mom lived long enough to meet Susan. My dad didn't, never did. He had a diverticulum in his colon that was inoperable. And he just had to go. He was in his mid-80s and just he wouldn't have been able to survive the surgery, so they just let him go. And I was able to play him some recordings from these voices from his childhood, people he hadn't seen in maybe 60 or more years, or spoken to. And then he passed away. They started a morphine drip, and he passed away about 3 days later. So he never met Susan.
You didn't introduce him while he was in
No, it was not appropriate. No.
Right. And did you have last moments with him?
Sure.
And did you talk about?
Yeah, I talked about his family. I talked about Russia. I talked about Boston. Talked about the way our lives had turned out, you know. They were very proud. They had seen us have the Star Trek experience, which they didn't quite understand, but they thought it was wonderful. You know? When I came to the Boston area to star in Fiddler on the Roof, they loved that.
Oh, right.
Had a good time.
Right.
That they understood. You know?
Right. I get a call from Playboy magazine. So I thought, wow, Leonard did that. I can do that too. And with a Playboy model and
in the first case, the Shekhinah book was all about the feminine aspect of God.
I know, but
So
it still was a naked
don't
lady.
interrupt me.
Well,
Don't interrupt.
It's called a conversation.
This is based on a photograph done by a wonderful, very well-known photographer named Herb Ritz.
Right.
Herb Ritz did a group composed exactly like that, but with 5 very famous, very beautiful women.
Right.
With
Right.
Linda Evangelisti and Cindy Crawford and those people who are great models.
Right.
And I sent that photograph to this group of women in San Francisco, and I said, we're going to replicate that, but with this different body image, different body type.
Where did you get this idea? Can I put this down now?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Or do you want to hold it?
No,
up
if you're really
tightly
interested, I'll
against
tell you where it came from. A lady approached me one day after I was presenting some work at a seminar. and when I was finished, she said, and I was showing some work from my previous work, from the Shekhinah book. She said, I'm a model.
Okay, so that woman, who's fair-sized woman,
Large woman.
comes up to you and says, I'm a model.
I'm a model. I'm a different body type than what you've been working with. Would you be interested in working with me? I spoke to Susan about it because I was very kind of confused. I had never worked with this kind of a person, and I didn't quite know what to make of it, whether I wanted to do it, what it meant to do it, and so forth. And Susan said, let's try it. And I showed some pictures of her along with other work subsequently at an exhibition, and she got all the attention. People were fascinated because you don't see that body type in a lot of photography, particularly in nudity. You don't see it.
So Leonard, that's so interesting. A lady comes up to you in the West,
Yeah.
in Montana?
No, in Nevada.
In Nevada, and says, I'm a model, and just your curiosity went along,
Led to
and
this book.
some years later.
It started with this.
Yeah, I know that. I've seen that before.
I mean, this is what started the photographic project.
How do you mean?
Because this is a symbol of God's name. It comes from a Jewish mythology.
So how does that get us to the fat lady?
Well, that's another long story, but it was essentially, this led me to the research about the Jewish aspect of the feminine aspect of God, because when the priest in the Hebrew tribes bless the congregation with this gesture, they're invoking the Shekhinah, which is the feminine aspect of God.
Yes, but
I'd never seen her, and I thought I'm going to go find her with my camera.
Wow.
And that's how it started.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Wow. Still, of course, it's a photograph of a naked lady.
I don't shoot the body as object. I use the body in ways that express an idea, a very specific idea that I'm dealing with. In the first case, the Shekhinah book was all about the feminine aspect of God.
I know, but
So
it
I
still was a
using-
naked
don't
lady.
interrupt me.
Well,
Don't interrupt.
It's called a conversation. Leonard, I got to tell you, I have to share this experience I had with you and seek your advice and try to understand what you did. I get a call from Playboy magazine,
Yeah.
and they said, would you like to do a guest photography shoot?
Really?
Yeah. So I thought, here's what went through my mind. Wow, Leonard did that. I can do that too. And with a Playboy model, and that was my thought. When I got there, they're photographing me doing the thing, and I take pictures with the wide angle. And then everybody, the lighting people, got into it, as I did, and we began to shoot bosom and rear ends and stomachs and heads and hands and stuff like that, using the body as an object, okay? So I never told my wife that I was doing that. I thought,
Why?
Well, because I thought she wouldn't be very happy about that.
Why?
Because she knows me.
What does that mean? She knows you.
Well, I'd like to keep that area mysterious. I mean, I know you, and you were able to do that with this beautiful girl, so I thought, I should be able to.
So you photographed ladies for Penthouse, for Playboy.
For Playboy. And I really caught it from Liz, because I was outed, because the pictures appeared on the website.
Liz knew about it. She found out about
somebody told her, okay?
it. And she got upset.
Horribly upset, because
Why was she upset?
Well, because I didn't tell her. And I said, well, I didn't
So
tell
it would
you.
have been okay if you told her, Liz, I'm going to shoot some naked ladies for Playboy.
Right, she would have been adamantly opposed, which is why I guess.
Which is why you didn't tell her.
Right, because I wanted to have the kick
Of course,
doing a
of course.
Playboy shoot.
Want to sneak off and shoot some pictures
Well,
of naked
the word
ladies.
sneak isn't exactly what I use. You've let me inside some of the doors that are just ajar, and I appreciate that. Leonard, thank you so much.
What a pleasure.
Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time on Raw Nerve. You had this wonderful idea, very complex idea. Not only was it complex, it required the assistance of ordinary people. What was the genesis of the idea?
I spent a lot of time on researching on the internet, researching philosophical issues, cultural issues, social issues.
Like what? What would you do? How do you do that?
I go to Google and type in Shatner, all kinds of strange things pop up.